Good morning. Today I will be talking on crime media's effect and influence on the minds of people, and in particular, the minds of children. What we know on this subject is that the over dramatization of violence in the media has an effect on our lives, whether we know it or not. Media affects our perception of people, especially when we're watching what the worst things that could happen is. What we know also is that being a victim of homicide is a super rare event and has a very small percentage of happening. Although shows such as NCIS and CSI make it seem like it's very likely to happen and something to be worried about on a daily basis. What we don't know and have a gap in knowledge in is how the crime media affects children's minds rather than adults. It's all too common to hear that video games make kids violent. Although no one really talks about how the shows and the news media that they have readily available to them can also affect them. Research needs to be concerned with this over dramatization as we research the effects of these shows. As shows influence our perception of reality, we need to be aware of how the children who are just now forming their perception of reality, how they can be influenced as well. My long-term goal for this study is to acknowledge the effects of this crime media and over dramatization of news on the influence of the minds of children and their pessimistic levels. With this research and goal in mind, we can begin to change the media for the better and change their perception of violence. The general hypothesis is that someone that watches more shows based on violence, the more pessimistic they will become. The different objectives based on this are to identify the connection between the media influence and pessimism. Number two is to provide therapists with the documentation to help in caring of their child patients. And finally, number three is to determine the best ways to undramatize the media. The rationale for this study is to use long-term interviews with children on the different influence spectrums, such as one child that has full access to all types of media, including crime shows, and another that has very limited access to media, especially violent media. And in summary, as I just mentioned, our experimental approach is to use long-term interviewing of different children. With this, we anticipate the outcomes to be able to gain information on the connection of the pessimistic levels and the media influence. And as we can see, this is a very important study, although there is not a lot of research being done with this topic, and this study will help overcome that limitation. And finally, the impact of this study is to provide valuable research for those working with children that perceive reality in a negative light and to bring about ideas how to change those characteristics to bring more of a positive influence for children. Thank you.